All right, guys, let's get started. All right, you have white paper. You chose either red or pink. You have pencil, scissors, glue at your table, oil pastels. I need for you to follow along with me, and I need for you to listen. Okay, pay attention to what I'm telling you and what I'm showing you. First off, it does not matter to me if your white paper is portrait style, which is tall, or landscape style, which is wide. It does not matter. You make that choice. Just for camera angle sake, I'm going to do it portrait style, which is tall. Take your red paper or your pink paper, and I need for you to draw the largest heart that you can draw on here. So it would be nice if your heart really filled up this space and that you used all of your paper, because we're going to be attaching it to the white paper in just a moment, and we don't want it to be tiny because this is really the focus of the artwork, so it needs to be large. So just take a moment and sketch out whatever style heart you want to draw. I should also say you could turn this paper wide and you could have a really wide heart. I'm just going to do mine a little thinner and on the paper turned portrait style, so it's a little taller. So whichever one you want to do, you do that. And it's okay if your drawing is sketchy and a little messy, because this can actually be the back. This can be the side that we put the glue on. So instead of erasing a bunch of times, you can just leave it sketchy, and when we cut it out, you can put the glue on this side so you don't have to do any kind of erasing. Okay, so once you get your heart drawn and you have made sure that it's big enough and it fills up the paper, then you can cut it out. Okay, at this point, once you have it cut, just put the scissors and the scraps in the middle of the table. We will clean that stuff up in a little bit, okay? So finish cutting, and then you're going to glue. And I'm going to give you a moment before I tell you what I need to tell you about the glue. Okay, even if you're not finished quite yet, will you lay your stuff down and look up at the board and let me talk to you for just a moment about putting glue on here. So it's really important. First off, you can see I'm going to put glue on this side that still has my pencil markings. It's really important that you do not put glue right to the edge of your heart so that it squishes out, because we're going to be using oil pastels in a minute, and I do not want the oil pastel getting glue on it. So when you glue, I need eyes looking up at the board. You should have already laid everything down and you're looking up here. First off, let the orange tip of the bottle actually touch your paper. And when you start gluing, I do not want you to glue right at the very edge. I want you to come in maybe a ½ inch or so, and I want you to do a really thin line, and my glue tip is touching the paper, and I am going around and I'm just really tracing the shape of the heart. And you can see that I did not get glue right at the edge anywhere, and I'm going to put just a little bit in the center. Again, my glue bottle touched my paper when I did that. Okay, so it's a thin line. It's not at the very edge. Okay, you can see the amount that I did. It's not a lot. Now I'm going to zoom back out so I can show you. Okay, so when you put this on, it does not have to be straight up and down. It could be tilted a little, however you want to do it. If you want it straight up and down, that's fine. But I'm going to put it right in the center and try to have mine a little bit more upright. If you want it a little bit more of an angle, that's okay. Okay, so when you put this down, you should not have any glue squishing out from any of the edges. There's no glue coming out from underneath my heart. That's really important because we are about to use pastels and I do not want glue all over the pastels. So go ahead and take a moment and a thin amount of glue on the back. Remember, the bottle should touch the back of the paper and you're not doing it at the very edge, and then you put it on however you would like for it to be on. Okay, pause for a moment and again put everything down and look up here, and let me explain the last little bit for today so that you understand where we're going with this and what you need to do next. So put everything down and look up here and listen. Look at the board and listen. The last portion of this is going to be done with oil pastels. And what I need for you to do is to create some texture, some interest, but we are not filling in the background. You are going to be adding some stuff to your heart, maybe around your heart, but you're not going to get way into the background because, let me show you my sample. This is where we're going with this. So what I did was I added, this was a red heart, and I added a little orange and some dark red and some purple, and I added some white for a highlight. And I got kind of messy, and I took my finger and I smeared it out just a little bit. And when I did that, the oil pastel got out here. And so in order to camouflage the mess that got out here, I went out here and I outlined, and I added these little spiky lines and the dots on the end. So you want to do something interesting to the heart, but you don't want to cover the paper completely. So if you had red, you don't want to cover the red completely. If you have pink, you don't want to cover the pink completely. But what you're going to do is shadows and lights are really good. You can add some kind of design, but leave some of the paper showing, and you can do a little bit of design on the outer edges of your heart. The next class period is going to be with bleeding tissue paper. That's what created the color in the background. And we'll do that part next time. So I need for you with the oil pastels to create some kind of interesting looking textures and things on your heart. And that is up to you what you do. I will just say though, don't go overboard. And you know, oil pastels, once it's on here, it's on here. So maybe kind of think about what you're going to do before you start doing things. Like I think I may actually redraw the shape of my heart with the red oil pastel, and I may do some stuff to that. Be careful, oil pastels smear very easily, so you'll want to be careful when you're working that you don't lay your hand all over this and make a mess of it. So figure out something that you can do to the heart. Remember, we're not covering up all of the paper. We are just covering some of it. And you're trying to create some interesting looking textures on here. You can see how I'm doing this, where I took the white and I'm sort of smearing it with the red a little bit. It's making it look very painterly on the edge. So you can do any kind of design you want. Remember, if you make a mess kind of around the outside of the heart, you're going to need to camouflage that because we want it to look really neat. But remember, you are not coloring the whole background because we are going to be painting with water on pieces of, it's called bleeding tissue paper. And what happens is it looks like tissue paper, but when it gets wet, the color runs out of it. So that is what we are doing with the background. So again, you're doing something interesting to your heart, some kind of textures, and I'm sure that when you do this, you'll notice that oil pastels create bits. Please do not blow those bits or do anything like that. When we clean up, you can very carefully lift your paper and keep it flat and walk it over to the trash can and dump the bits in the trash can. So just be really careful not to knock the bits all over the place. So whatever kind of designs and textures you want to add, feel free to add to the heart and just the little area around the heart. Okay, so finish up this part, and the last thing I will say is don't forget to get your name on here. Your name needs to be on the front in the bottom corner in pencil. On the front in the bottom corner in pencil. Okay, so finish up, and you will clean up when it's time to clean up, and whatever you don't finish, we will work on again the next time before we start doing the tissue paper part. Okay, so I cannot wait to see these.